All right, welcome to as we kick off another big day here at the show. We got a lot to cover here today and a lot of things to get done. So here's the question as always, who do you want in your foxhole? We're fighting for you for the foxhole of freedom every single day. Never giving in, ever. We are steadfast. Here are three big things. Number one, the fruit of President Trump's labor, another $600 billion plus in U.S. investment, this time from Tim Cook and Apple, which is far larger than was first expected, rings up another big win. Number two, the DOJ may be pursuing the death penalty for the man accused of murdering two Jewish staffers in Washington, D.C. That's not happened in a very long time. We'll keep you posted. And number three, something different today. Man's original sin. Man's original sin was the temptation to play God. It got Satan kicked out of heaven. It got Adam and Eve kicked out of the garden. But we just love the idea of controlling our world with omnipotent precision. And I'm seeing this play out right now, especially with things like the Canadian wildfires. 16.5 million acres on fire in Canada right now. Let that sink in. 16.5 million acres. That's more than 25,000 square miles. That's bigger than the entire state of West Virginia. This year's on track to be one of the worst, maybe the worst, for wildfires for our northern neighbors. And we're seeing the results, of course, especially if you live in the northern tier of the United States like I do. We've been under air quality warnings for a good portion of the summer as the smoke creates a haze over our skies day after day. It's inconvenient for us, but it's devastating for them, to say the least. But I got to say, I can't help but roll my eyes at a letter from a Republican congressman, and one that I very much like. One that was here yesterday telling Canada to fix the fires or else. Here's Congressman Tom Tiffany, who authored the letter. Listen.
We can do a really good job of detection as well as putting out fires at this point. The technology is really incredible at this point. Canada should be implementing some of those technologies. I know as the chairman of the Federal Lands Committee, subcommittee, we are pushing our federal agencies to adopt some of these newer technologies that can detect fire as very soon before they become big.
And he's not wrong about that. But this isn't big. This is monumental. This is biblical. Americans and Canadians want a wildfire-free summer. I get it. But there's really no use trying to play God. You can't stop a 16.5 million acre fire at the drop of a dime. And yes, it started smaller, but it's a huge country. Canada is using every tool it can to fight the fires in the U.S., like he said, providing support. But wildfires happen. And I actually want to remind you of what happened in the 1970s and 80s. For most of the 20th century, especially after a huge fire in 1910, the United States had a strict policy to put out every wildfire as quickly as possible, even aiming to have them put out by 10 o'clock the next morning. The thinking back then was that all fire was bad, but by the 1960s and 70s, scientists and land managers started realizing fire is actually a good thing. It's natural, an important part of many ecosystems. Suppressing every fire was causing dangerous fuel buildup, leading to even bigger fires, worse fires, more devastating fires. So starting in the late 70s, and especially after the big Yellowstone fires of 1988, where I was in attendance, the approach shifted toward managing fire more thoughtfully, allowing some fires to burn naturally, and using controlled burns to keep forests healthy. We can't and shouldn't stop every wildfire. You see, it's part of nature. The cycle of life, if you will. In fact, lodgepole pines, among other trees, require fire to reproduce. They don't even open their cones till it's 125 degrees. You only get that by fire. None of this matters, of course, to the Green New Deal zealots, because no one's more obsessed with playing God than the left-wing climate change fanatics, and they're predictably blaming these wildfires and all wildfires on that, of course. Here's an example.
I wear my mask in solidarity. Climate change is not a hoax. We're not only seeing the haze from these fires, we're also feeling it in our very own lungs.
The work to protect our climate is far from over, and we're dangerously behind.
Oh, boy. None of this is new, of course. You remember Al Gore all the way back in the 1980s. That's when he started beating the drum, sounding the alarm, but he said it was hard to get people to listen or to care. Here he is.
The biggest problem that anyone in the Congress has in addressing a problem this big is that it seems so remote from our everyday experience that it doesn't appear to justify a visceral political response that says, let's do something about it. It seems too remote. However, our industrial civilization has reached the stage now where we evidently can have global effects, and those effects can take place over a long period of time. And in order to stop them, you have to act early on. So we have to deal with a greater amount of uncertainty than we have in the past.
1983. That was 1983. Ronald Reagan's first term. So how do we fix this problem of urgency? Well, they started blaming every single natural disaster on climate change, no matter what. It was all climate change, and it explained everything. Climate change explains everything. Too much rain, not enough rain, drought, fire, wind, water, snow, doesn't matter. It changes with the days, and it explains everything. It's magical, this climate change. Hurricanes, wildfires, earthquakes. Over on The View, they blame the eclipse. The eclipse. On climate change. All to give the government more and more control over the energy sector, over how much water you can use in your toilet, over you. That's what it gave them power over, you. Climate scientists want to go all in on global geoengineering in the name of playing God, too. Listen to this crackpot.
But some of the modeling that's been done in terms of what it would require to literally change the planet, right, is in a moderate scenario of like 15 years, which, given the fact that we're not cutting emissions fast enough, we're going to have to do something like solar geoengineering for much longer than that, right? There's work that's been done that suggests that we're going to have continually flying aircraft, which don't exist. We don't have the aircraft that can go high enough with a big enough payload, from multiple different bases placed across the planet, 61,000 flights a year for many decades, right? So we're going to have a huge intervention of aircraft continually spraying sulfur dioxide or whatever chemical compounds that they come up with that works.
You're saying that's what it would take?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about that, chemtrails? We'll have to have these planes flying continuously, lacing the clouds and, yeah, playing God. Nice to see you here today. We'll play more God after the break on the Steve Gruber Show. You don't want to miss it. We're just getting warmed up. Good morning. The takeaway is this from what we've discussed so far. These people pushing the Green New Deal, the climate agenda, the hysteria, the fear-mongering, they will control whatever and whomever they can. They're already practicing cloud seeding, of course, across the United States. They've done it for quite some time. That's no conspiracy theory. It's a real attempt by the government to play God and control rainfall. This is a newscast from a dozen years ago. Pay attention.
Well, in one hard-hit area of Texas, some people have grown tired of waiting for Mother Nature to bring relief and have decided to try and take matters into their own hands. Here's ABC's Juju Chang.
Craig Funky is flying me to the edge of a violent thunderstorm.
You see how nice and crisp the top of that cloud is up there? Yeah.
But the former commercial pilot isn't some adrenaline junkie courting danger. He's a cloud seeder, chasing this menacing storm to squeeze out extra rain for the drought-stricken farmland below.
As a pilot going through school, you're taught to avoid thunderstorms.
This is Craig's job, firing chemicals into the clouds in a controversial attempt to modify the weather. He's literally a rainmaker.
Yeah, literally a rainmaker. Now the rivers in central Texas, some rising more than 25, 30, 35 feet in just a couple of hours during those historic floods just last month, killing all of those children. Now, you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to question if playing God has serious consequences. You can't outlaw wildfires, you can't change rain patterns without consequence, and you can't expect to replace fossil fuels with solar fields and windmills for an entire modern industrialized society. Nothing says, let's save the planet like bulldozing acres and acres of land for solar panels made in China out of heavy metal and built with child labor. And then after billions are spent, the project can still get scrapped. Like this plant in the Mojave Desert. Oh my God, listen to this.
Ivanpah concentrated solar array. There's hundreds of thousands of mirrors that use computers to reflect the sun's energy as the sun moves at these 3 giant towers bigger than the Statue of Liberty. They boil water, which creates steam to create electricity. And when it was installed in 2014, it was one of the cutting edge options for a cleaner energy future. But it turns out that those mirrors are really hard to move in the desert right there. And boiling water and doing all of that is super complicated. Oh, and by the way, that concentrated heat would fry birds in flight as they flew through the paths. It was also a threat to the desert tortoise. So a lot of groups hated this thing. And now it looks like they are winding it down right now. About $1.5 billion, a little over, of federal loan money went into that. Unclear how much of that will get paid back.
An absolute boondoggle. There's no comprehensive, sustainable, disposable method for stuff like this, of course. How do you get rid of hundreds of millions of mirrors in a way that's not damaging to the environment? It's the same problem with electric vehicle batteries, EV batteries. And windmills aren't any good for the avian population either. Donald Trump isn't shy to call that out, at least. Listen.
Look, wind is the most expensive form of energy, and it destroys the beauty of your fields and your plains and your waterways. And look out there, there's no windmills. But if you look in another direction, you see windmills. When we go to Aberdeen, you'll see some of the ugliest windmills you've ever seen. They're the height of a 50-story building. And you can take 1,000 times more energy out of a hole in the ground this big. This big. It's called oil and gas. But I've restricted windmills in the United States because they also kill all your birds. You know, they wipe out. You know, it's interesting. If you shoot a bald eagle in the United States, they put you in jail for 5 years. And yet windmills knock out hundreds of them. They don't do anything.
They don't do anything. He's exactly right. Look, God created photosynthesis, nature's efficient conversion of light energy into chemical energy. He created fine-tuned ecosystems that use food webs and predators and prey to stay stable. He created the human brain, which uses less power than a dim light bulb to perform complex calculations, actions, and hold remarkable memories. And we're trying to undermine nature with windmills, solar panels, and cloud seeding. We are not God. We never will be. We can devote trillions and trillions of dollars in a Green New Deal, but then something like this will always happen. An 8.8 magnitude earthquake in Russia, which has subsequently set off a string of 7 active volcanoes for the first time for some in as much as 650 years. Part of Russia's southern peninsula has just completely shifted as a result. Global geoengineering isn't going to do anything about that. And the climate change agenda only exists to rake in tax dollars, your money, and hand over more government control over you. And it asks a lot of you and provides nothing in return because natural cycles will always, always win over man-made interventions. Always. God bless America, please. And today, I think I mean that more than ever. God bless America. Now, speaking of health, could your health issues be caused by an invisible enemy? Fatigue, bloating, brain fog? What if parasites are the real culprit? I was digging into parasite cleanses when I came across a video from trusted doctors who mentioned that, well, ivermectin and mebendazole are 2 powerful anti-pathogens. But what's even more fascinating, these medications are frequently used in oncology, that's right, to treat cancer patients. They have anti-pathogenic properties that stunt the growth of harmful invaders and even have the potential to slow down abnormal cell growth. Did you know 60 million Americans have parasites today? That's kind of a frightening number, isn't it? They invade your body, wreaking havoc on your gut, energy levels, yes, even your mind. In the mainstream medical system, They don't want you thinking about this because one great cleanse can change your life. At the Wellness Company, they have a solution. Ivermectin and mebendazole. FDA-approved parasite solutions now combined into one cleanse combo. Just fill out a brief medical intake form. Get your 3-month supply. This is the hottest thing going. I've done it. Lots of parasite cleanses are on the market, but not the gold standard. Maha is officially here, the Wellness Company, making hard-to-get medications accessible to you. Go to twc.health/Gruber. twc.health/Gruber. When you use the promo Gruber, you'll save $60 and get free shipping, too. twc.health/Gruber. Get healthy today.